Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Tonight we have a celebration video, and it's actually a 5,000 subscriber celebration video. So first of all, I have to say thank you to everybody who has subscribed to the channel and got us to this point. I did a live stream, a 5,000 subscriber celebration live stream, but I wanted to do a video and I couldn't come up with a good idea. And a subscriber actually sent me an email and gave me this idea. So I kind of took it and ran with it because I thought it was a good one. So this is going to be 5 fragrances from each genre that I've been wearing and loving lately. Unranked. I'm not ranking these. If you're interested in my ranking, I actually have a ranked, this is not a top 10 list on every single one of these we're going to cover. So you can go see my full list. Some of those videos are 25, 50, 100 fragrances ranked for things like vetiver, fougere, chypre, leather, oud, all that stuff, okay? So this is just kind of in one place. We're going to have 5 categories. Well, I was going to originally have 5. For 5,000 subscribers, 5 categories, 5 niche, and 5 designers in each category. But I decided to do a bonus category as well. So this is going to be 6. So this is not going to encompass everything. There are some things missing, of course. There's not a rose category. There's not a floral category. There's not an oriental category. There's not a citrus category. I can do those videos if you guys would find them helpful as well, or maybe save them for 10,000 subscribers. But first we're going to do a quick unboxing, and I actually cut out my name and everything, and it came wrapped in a little sheet. But this is a package from Russian Adam, and I think these are samples of his new work. So let's open this bad boy up. I was supposed to sign for it, and they just left it at the door yesterday while I was at the Pearl Jam concert. Ram has been living his life. Okay, so let's see what's in here. I know it's samples, but let me see. Let me see. Aha, yes indeedy. Yes. I'm excited. This is the, I believe this is the Classics collection. Yes, it is the Classics collection, and an extra Cuir de Russie. I've been wanting to smell this for so long. This is the fabric perfume Cuir de Russie, and then we have let's see, Russian Oud 2. Okay, so this is the new Classics collection. Yes, the new Classics collection. This will be a fun live stream to try these. Ottoman Empire 4. Oh, I can smell it through the package. That's how potent it is. Chinese oud. Oh, and some of these are going to be on this list today, by the way. Russian musk. What is this? I think it's Russian musk 3. And then finally we have Walima 2. I've never smelled the first Walima either, so this is going to be a treat. Okay, so let me put these away so I don't lose them. Very important here. The Ram will end up losing stuff if he's not careful. Okay. So, now that that is done, the unboxing is done. Thank you, Adam, by the way. Very kind of you, my friend. I will hopefully talk about them very soon. My time has been a little strained lately. Like, for example, I've got to go pick up my daughter in about an hour. So, trying to fit everything into a nice little, exactly in its place. So, we're going to go a little fast today because there is a lot of fragrances. It's been a while since I've done a video like this. So, first, it's going to be the Fougere category. And the Fougere category is one of the oldest categories for men. Of course, originally, you had things like Jiki, which was targeted towards women in 1889, but men really wore a lot of it back in the day. And then, of course, came this little bad boy right here, which is Mouchoir de Monsieur. And, of course, the Fougere category really took off. This was marketed towards men. But, you know, Fougere has that lavender with geranium in the heart normally, and then usually some sort of tonka bean, coumarin in the base, if you will. And so these are going to be 5 designers first and foremost. And first is my scent of the day. And this is a very interesting Fougere, extremely interesting. And again, these are not ranked. If you want my ranking, go check out the full. This is not a top 10 video, but we're going to start with 5 designers that I've been loving lately that encompass the Fougere DNA. So this is going to be Cabaret Homme. by the house of Parfums Gres. So it says Cabaret de Gres. So there is a beautiful write-up on Parfumo about this fragrance, and I normally don't agree with much of what is written on some of those databases, but this guy knocked it out of the park with this. He said, this is a Fougere created in 2004 by Pierre Bourdon, and it's too retro for the people who like modern neo-Fougeres, whatever you want to call it, to like, but it's too modern for the people who love the vintage stuff to like. And actually, I really like this because you know what I was thinking as I was wearing it today? There's a pineapple note in the top, and Pierre Bourdon played with pineapple a lot before Aventus came from his pupil. And so it's Jean-Christophe Hérault created Aventus, and Pierre Bourdon trained Jean-Christophe Hérault. And what's interesting is the pineapple in the top of this. You know how Aventus is a CHYPRE with that fruity pineapple? This is almost like a Fougere with a fruity pineapple note, but more in the old school category. So if you're thinking pineapple and Fougere and you're already thinking music for a while, this is almost like a precursor, a designer to music for a while, but with that Pierre Bourdon touch. And you know, he was doing a lot of fresh things, right? So there's a little bit of this shaving foam freshness in here as well. It does feel a little bit like a 90s fragrance sometimes, and a little bit like an 80s fragrance sometimes. But I really, really haven't been enjoying getting to know this. And it is discontinued, okay? So it's a little hard to find. The name is also very cool. It goes with things like cabochard, so cabaret, you know, all that good stuff. But Cabaret Homme by Parfums Gres. Amazing Fougere. Okay, next on the list is going to be Azzaro pour Homme. What can you say about this? I mean, this is Gerard Anthony's, one of his masterpieces, if you will. It is anise and also a little bit of shaving foam as well. This is a James Bond fragrance to me. Azzaro pour Homme is one of the greatest spicy, woody Fougeres ever. It does dry down to a little bit of a leather. There's woods and spices, and there's also a little bit of a shaving foam vibe in here, like I said, but that very sharp anise note. You know, whenever you put this on, it's very sharp and very old school, and I love that about it. I love a good anise note, but it's sort of you know, I would say softened with a beautiful iris, and there's little green touches with basil. It's just a fantastic Fougere, one of the all-time greats, Azzaro pour Homme. Okay, next on the list is a very hard to find fragrance, and actually I wore it during the Raider victory over the Denver Broncos last Sunday. So this was a lucky fragrance for me. Well, not lucky for me, but it was a good day, let's say. I enjoyed wearing it. I made a decant for Duncan. He never showed up. He's like, man, Dallas was way further out of the way than I thought it was. So there is an extra decant waiting for you, Duncan, if you ever make it to my side of the tracks. But this is Bally Masculin. And Bally Masculin is a mid-80s release from the house of Bally of Switzerland, which has almost no fragrances, but this is one they put out in 1984. And what's interesting is it does have these Fougere type touches, but it also has a little bit of a leathery touch to it as well. So think of the 80s leathery Fougeres, think of Smalto, Pour Homme, and stuff like that. Excuse me, there's a little bit of that in here. Very hard to find. Extremely hard to find. Also green, maybe a little touch of dihydromercenol in here, but it's just beautiful. I mean, a lovely all-weather. This could be a signature scent for me. Easily could be a signature scent. And woody, you know, spicy green Fougere. Beautiful from the house of Bally. Okay, the fourth designer Fougere we're going to highlight today. And I'm trying to highlight some that are maybe a little bit different from what I've been talking about in my This Is Not a Top 10, but this one, actually this entire line has completely blown me away. I think if it was more accessible, other vintage lovers would love this line, but this is from the house of Pierre Cardin, and it's the Centaure line. So I was lucky enough to find the whole pack, but the whole pack is actually not the whole pack. There's a couple that are missing from this that I've been unable to hunt down, especially the amber one. But this one is called Cuir Fougere. Cuir Fougere in the green packaging. It's citrus fruits, oak moss, old school oak moss, patchouli, tonka, and woods. And what basically runs through this line is this note of leather. And so all of these have a little bit of a leather tinge. In fact, this one has a little bit of Serge Lutens leather fragrance. This Cuir Etalon has a little bit of the Serge Luton leather, which is escaping my name right now, but it's on my wish list of leathers that I'd love to own one day. But this is an amazing fougere. And I'm going to do full reviews on each and every one of these because they deserve it. I think just the fact that it didn't last very long, they've been long discontinued, they're very hard to find, just makes it to where nobody really talks about this line of perfumes. But I really wish that that they would. I love the green little bitter touches in here as well. Fantastic fougere. You know, it's a shame. This is what designer perfume used to be, and unfortunately that's long dead. Okay, the final designer fougere we're going to highlight today is a fragrance from the house of Parfums Weil, W-E-I-L. You could say Weil, but I think it's Parfums Weil. And this is called Kipling. And Kipling is another mid-80s discontinued fougere that has a little bit of a spicy animalic side to it, but also a little bit of a deeper, darker, leathery dry down. Actually, this is probably the most leathery of the bunch. I know I said Azzaro pour Homme has a little bit of leather, Bally Masculin has a little bit of leather, but this is probably the most leathery of the bunch. And also slightly earthy and animalic. There is that lavender in the top. There's the geranium in the heart with old school carnation and a green pine and basil. So it's green, pine, basil with leather. And that old school carnation is definitely noticeable. You'll get it. It's spicy, it's green, and then of course it dries down to that old school smoky, leathery oak moss thing. Fantastic fragrance. Kipling by the house of Weil. Very underrated too. And I think you can still find bottles for, I would say, a reasonable price. You know, it's not one that gets too much hype yet. All right, so that's the first round, the designers for the fougere. Let's go to the niche. So for the niche fragrances for the fougere side of things, next on the list, the first niche fragrance we're going to discuss is Bon Monsier. So I didn't talk about things like Gucci Nobile today. You'll have to check my This Is Not a Top 10 fougere list to see where that ranks. But Gucci Nobile is kind of seen as like the, many people see it as, I would say, like the Grail fougere, right? And when people are saying, I don't want to spend $800-900 on Gucci Nobile, I just tell them to go buy this. This is an amazing recreation by Manny Cross. One of the reasons why Manny Cross's house was so valuable to me, and I don't know about the newer version, but the older ones where the cap looked like this, I can definitely vouch for. Smells like an old school aromatic fougere done in the modern times with the real oak moss and all that stuff. Great, great fragrance by Manny Cross. All right, next on the list is a Roja. And this is called Roja Scandal pour Homme. Now, this is the vintage paper label Eau de Toilette. Sorry, excuse me. Not Eau de Toilette, Eau de Parfum. This is the Eau de Parfum. And Eau de Parfum is discontinued. That's my preferred version of Scandal in the Eau de Parfum. I will do a video on this one day. Sorry, but basically, you know, there are differences between the pure Parfum and they call it the Parfum Cologne, which came out in the colored bottles that were such a big hit because they were cheaper, which I didn't care for as much as this. This seemed much richer, and there's a poshness to this fragrance. You know, there's a real sort of James Bond feel to this perfume. I mean, there is a tuxedo, a black tie, let's say. There's a black tie feeling to Scandal pour Homme because it does have the lavender, but it also, Roja loves using violet. There's a little violet note in here, very delicate violet, but not a Parma violet. You know, it just adds with the jasmine from Gres, lily of the valley, May rose in the heart. There is that floral heart, that patented floral heart Roja loves using. And also in the top, there's some mint. There's some spearmint in here. And so it opens up very invigorating and fresh, but still a little bit of a throwback because there's some tarragon in the top. And then it sort of dries down to this mossy, spicy, clovey. But of course, Roja loves throwing in little oddball notes like rhubarb and cashmeran and stuff like that into the dry down. So it feels old school, yet it feels modern as well. That's the thing about Scandal. Okay, so next on the list is going to be an Amouage. And this is unfortunately, from what I'm hearing, a discontinued Amouage, which is absolutely sad because I think it's one of the best niche fougères money can buy, and it's Bracken Man. And you can see the fern on the front. I think most people that, knew Amouage for things like Jubilation 25 and Interlude Man and all that stuff, they looked at this and they were like, what in the world is this? This is not a Amouage, but you know what? When I wear this, and this is a creation by two master perfumers, Fabrice Pellegrin and Olivier Cresp, okay? So those two gentlemen took the fougère structure, and even though this isn't an Amouage like you're used to thinking, okay? This is not Dia Man or Journey Man or Mitz Man or anything like that, or Epic Woman or Fate Woman. You know what this is? This is Amouage doing what Amouage does, being bold with the composition. So they took this fougère style, and it opens up with a ton of clove, just a huge amount of clove, and cypress, okay? And cypress has that little bit of a medicinal aspect to it. There's that cooling aspect to cypress, a beautiful provincial lavender in here, nutmeg, cinnamon, cedarwood, geranium, sandalwood, patchouli, and musk in the base. And they just created a brilliant niche. This is a perfect office fragrance. Bracken Man, if you can still pick up bottles for cheap and you're a fougère lover, you will fall in love with that one, in my opinion. Okay, next on the list, we have what do we have? We've got an MDCI fragrance, and it is called Invasion Barbare. Invasion Barbare. So I am really glad my brother Rich Mitch came around to Invasion Barbare, because it is a fantastic fougère. I think it is, anyways. I think it's a sort of just brilliant barbershop fougère, and there's a little bit of violet leaf in the top. I think it's Stephanie Bacouche's greatest creation. There's a little bit of violet leaf in the top, which sort of adds this, almost like this oily, a little bit of like a gasoline, just a little bit of gasoline vibe. This is not, I would not say that this is Fahrenheit by any stretch of the imagination, okay? But it is extremely well done, very well balanced, posh. There's some white thyme and ginger and cardamom, and of course the lavender in there, which really stands out with the patchouli, bourbon, vanilla, and musk. And it's just so smooth. This is a smooth operator. This is cool as the other side of the pillow, right? Invasion Barbare by MDCI. Okay, next on the list is going to be a Frederic Malle, and it is Music for a While. So I mentioned this earlier, just a quick little hit. Music for a While is basically a modern fougère, and it has this amazing pineapple note, very sticky pineapple, almost like you spilled some pineapple juice or something on the counter and left it. Put your finger in it, it's sticky, right? That's the way it feels, but it's not too sweet. Even though it is sweet, I don't think it's too sweet. I think the sweetness really accentuates what they were trying to do in Music for a While. And I really think that this is an overlooked Frederic Malle creation with the sort of labdanum, amber, patchouli, and vanilla in the base. I think it's, maybe it's not a true proper fougère. You could make that argument, but it wears like one to me. That's why I included it here. So Carlos Benaim's Music for a While. Okay, so that takes care of 5 designers, 5 niche on the fougère side. So next on the list is going to be CHYPRE's, one of my favorite categories. So first we have Teatro alla Scala. And we're going to do 5 designers first. So the first designer is Krizia's Teatro alla Scala. So Teatro alla Scala is basically a opera house in Milan, if I'm not mistaken. And so I just want you to imagine the fat lady singing. For those of you offended at everything, you're probably on the wrong channel. But just imagine the fat lady singing in here, okay? And imagine the velocity of her voice carrying throughout the opera house, right? That's Teatro alla Scala. It really is a huge CHYPRE. Everything turned up to 11. Old school beeswax, animalic, honey feel mixed in with one of the most perfect civet notes thrown in the base. Just a brilliant. I mean, I've got 3 or 4 bottles of this stuff, and I never want to be without it. It is one of my all-time favorites. So Krizia's Teatro alla Scala, number 1. Number 2 is the greatest fragrance potentially of all time. Mitsouku is a late 70s bottle, according to the great Amouage. Mitsouku is the fruity chypre, if you will. With that unbelievable peach note and just the way it all comes together, with the oak moss and the labdanum and all of the things that make a proper Guerlain, I would say, a Guerlain. And you don't have to get the vintage Parfums de Toilette version like I'm showing here. Any of the, even the modern eau de parfum, I think is still very good. There's a brilliant lilac and ylang-ylang note in here as well. But it's the oak moss and spices and labdanum and vetiver and floral touches from Guerlain that really makes this. And it does change over time. Slightly leathery in the base, slightly cinnamony, you know, brown color, maybe something that used to be green and is now turning brown, you know, sort of aging in as it fell off the tree or something. It has a little bit of that feel in my mind. Mitsouku, one of the greatest of all time. Number 2, designer chypre. Number 3, again, unranked, but this is Roja's Femme. The great Edmond Rudnitska did this in the 40s. This is a vintage Parfum de Toilette bottle, which is discontinued, but even the new stuff I hear is amazing. But it's got this decadent, thick, rich plum, and with that plum is also this sort of apricot peach, but really the plum is what I think sort of stands out with Roja's Femme. If you're a guy, don't let the name put you off. I'm telling you right now. It is apricot, plum, peach, clove, iris, amber, leather, and I always put this as a chypre, although you could easily make the case that there are oriental aspects to this. It's almost like the merger of oriental and chypre style. Roja's Femme, one of the greatest of all time. At number 3 in the designer side. Number 4 is, I think, probably one of the most underrated chypres. It doesn't get the love that it deserves. It came out in 1992, and it's done by one of the greatest perfumers of all time, Jean Carleo. And when I got the vintage, okay, that's when I realized what this fragrance was. The newer one that was done by designer perfumes or whatever, it's still good, but the vintage is like on another level. Everything is so much more vibrant and thick and rich, and you know, there is a slight bit of powderiness in this from the orris root, but it's got, I mean, just a beautiful balance. Citruses, green notes, florals, carnation, animalic notes in the base, waxy styrax, and tonka. Oh, I love Sublime. I think it is Sublime. Perfectly named. All right, next on the list is a fragrance from the house of Ralph Lauren, and it is Polo Green. This is a true, proper chypre for men, and one of the best sort of pine tobacco fragrances, I would say, that has ever existed. I think it's a masterpiece. I think it's Carlos Benaim's masterpiece. For him to do this and then to come back and do something like this, what a career the guy had, in my opinion. But Polo Green is pine, leather, tobacco, just the epitome of masculinity for me. This is what a man should smell like, in my opinion. Not the modern bubblegum stuff, but tobacco, and just a brilliant, brilliant fragrance. Brilliant chypre construction, if you will. Huge fan of Polo Green. Okay, next on the list, we're going to do 5... we are going to do 5 niche chypres. Okay, so the first one is going to be Chypre Siam. So again, we're going back to the House of Rogue. And again, this is a vintage bottle. And look how green that juice is. You know, it's almost, you almost can't see through it. So green. And that's because these older bottles had a ton of real oak moss in them. I don't know if they still, now he claims, oh, I've always been IFRA compliant, but I always thought the whole point of Rogue was that he was a rogue. He was going against the grain. He wasn't IFRA compliant. But I don't know. But I can say, if you can find these older bottles of Chypre Siam, they definitely have a, you know, a little bit of a echo of Coty's Chypre, right? the original CHYPRE that Cody made in the early 1900s. There's definitely an echo of that in here. And, you know, if you're interested, I would go back and read the story of how the CHYPRE genre came about. I have some, go back and watch some of my videos on CHYPREs and we can go into it. Unfortunately, I don't have time today. But, and then of course, next on the list, again, unranked, you know, this would be number one. I actually put this as my favorite niche fragrance of all time. It's Diaghilev. And Diaghilev is a masterpiece to me. Diaghilev, my God, man. Diaghilev is a dirty, animalic, sexualized CHYPRE with cumin and all kinds of animalic notes. It is, I think, the masterpiece from the House of Roja Dove. There's, you know, sort of putty-like heliotrope in here with blackcurrant bud, cumin. Really what stands out is the cumin, the leather, the ambergris, the spices, the tarragon. There is a little bit of peach, so it gets that Mitsouku reference, but I think it's almost like Mitsouku meets something like Azzaro, you know, meets Rochas Femme, meets Aramis, meets Bandy. If you've ever smelled Bandy, that's going to be on the list later on. That's more what Diaghilev is like to me than just Mitsouku. Okay, next on the list is going to be, believe it or not, it is Aventus. Yes. And I actually really do love Aventus. Aventus for me is, and you can see I used the whole damn bottle. And this is my second full bottle that I've gone through. And I'm halfway through the third. So I've used a lot of Aventus in my life. And Aventus is a fruity CHYPRE. Again, that's what it is. It's got that pineapple top. And it's got the sort of mossy, dirty dry down. That's what made the old bottles so great with that contrast. Pierre Bourdon was amazing at contrast. So Aventus comes in at number 3 on the niche side for CHYPREs. Number 4 is going to be CHYPRE Palatine. Again, back to MDCI. I don't have any full bottles of MDCI, but I do have these amazing decants and just one of the greatest. You know, if you like Rochas Femme, I would urge you to try this. It's green, it's powdery, it's you know, the florals are like being in your garden, smelling the actual flower themselves. Everything is so vibrant, and it's got that Bertrand Duchefort sort of Bertrand Duchefort, I would say he uses notes that you wouldn't think go together, but they do. That's the thing about Bertrand Duchefort. And so this is full of resins in the base, and that's why it feels kind of like an Oriental, but it's animalic. The hyacinth in the top might be one of the best hyacinth notes I've ever smelled. And then it's green galb. There's just so many things. Hyacinth, galbanum, benzoin, styrax, plum, rose, leather, immortelle, castoreum. It's animalic. There's some vanilla. It's just one of the greatest CHYPREs of all time, in my opinion. And finally, back to Roja. He is the king of CHYPRE. This has grown on me. I have a full review of this on my channel. This is Hautlux. His signature scent, if you will, where they only make 250 bottles a year for the whole world with the gold flakes in them. But Hautlux is, it's a labdanum heavy CHYPRE with some big ylang-ylang, big jasmine, but it's really grown on me. I've come to really love Hautlux and the way it sort of dries down. And it's a shapeshifter too. That's the thing about Hautlux. It really does change, but just a great, great perfume. All right, so that takes care of the niche side. So let's go to green fragrances, okay? So green fragrances, we're gonna start with YSL Y. And YSL Y came out in 1964, and I am convinced that this is what shot off the green revolution. So YSL Y is, like I said, 1964 release. It is a, this might be a, what is this? Is this a, I didn't know if this was a tester where it had the notes on it. There's a little blurb, but I don't think it's listing notes. So here, let me pull this up. So YSL Y, usually I've got this ready, but I'm in a little bit of a rush today, so I didn't have it pulled up. 1964, ah yes, honeysuckle. That's the big note that really sets this apart. That honeysuckle will come at you from the very beginning. And I know I reviewed a fragrance called Zesty Mandarin Pamplemousse that I thought had a beautiful honeysuckle note. This actually beats that. Plum, again, hyacinth, orris, rose, oak moss, amber, sandalwood, vetiver, benzoin, civet, patchouli, and styrax. But it's a floral green chypre. Beautiful. Also gardenia in the top. So discontinued. This is the Parfum de Toilette version. But if you can find a bottle and you like green fragrances, I would highly recommend it. Next on the list is Chanel number 19 from 71. So I think that this is one of the greatest green fragrances of all time. It originally had Iranian galbanum in it. Oh, but I mean, it's got that cool sort of Chanel, you know, almost like you're just too cool to sort of act like you're caring, you know what I mean? Like the teenager in the corner who's trying to act like he doesn't care because he's too cool for that. But there's that sort of vibe about it, this sort of aloofness. That's a better word. The teenager reference makes it seem juvenile. It's not. It is more aloof, all right? Someone who is in their own thoughts and own world. One of the best galbanum openings. Bitter, earthy, and cold. Not as cold as Cristal, but cold. With some leather into the dry down, that Chanel sparkle, that aldehydes. Henri Robert's masterpiece, one of the greatest green fragrances of all time. And then we have Estee Lauder's Private Collection. So Private Collection also has an amazing honeysuckle note. That's why I say that Private Collection, the 70s in general, I think took their notes from YSL. But this is one of the most amazing spicy green, coriander, sandalwood, patchouli, ylang ylang, orange blossom. It's just so floral and green. If you like things like Synthetic Jungle by Frederic Malle, this is what Frederic Malle and Filippo were using whenever they created that fragrance as a reference. And then also on the designer side, on the green side of the fragrance game, we have Givenchy 3. And I talked about this whenever I did my video on, let's see here, whenever I did my video on, Raymond Chaillan. So Raymond Chaillan, I did a perfumer's portfolio video on him and I highlighted this. This is an amazing green chypre. They highlight Lily of the Valley, jasmine, and oak moss in Givenchy 3. Again, 1970, 1 year before Chanel number 19. And then finally, the final green fragrance we're going to discuss on the designer side is Val de Nuit. This is the Extrait by Guerlain. I am blown away by this fragrance. I don't even know what to say. I don't even know if I have words to describe it. My God, man. The Extrait, the little... I got this bottle for a song. That's not true. Not a song, but a great deal because it didn't have the stupid propeller on it. I was like, I don't give a shit. I want the juice inside. And sure enough, it came in pristine condition. But Val de Nuit is, you know, at first I got the EDT. And whenever I got the EDT, I was like, you know, I kind of like it, but I don't know. It's not my favorite Guerlain. Man, this, though, it's a green chypre. It could easily be put on the chypre side. That's the other thing I should say. There aren't hard lines in the sand here, right? So if one is a chypre, it can also be considered a green fragrance. You could have oriental touches in a chypre. You could have fruity touches in a fougere. You know, I mean, none of these are hard and fast lines, if you will, that we're going for. And so keep that in mind. Sometimes the lines do blur. But Val de Nuit, man, just with that Guerlain green, spicy, again, galbanum. This may have been the fragrance that really inspired some of the galbanum fragrances that came after it, because this came out in 33. But the Extrait completely put me on my ass. Like, when I smelled the EDT, it was one thing. The Extrait, on another level. So, yes, Val de Nuit is the final designer. So let's do the five green... let's do the 5 green niche fragrances. So first is Memoir Man. So I've said this before, but this is almost like getting high and entering a Dr. Seuss novel, being in, I I would say being in the Dr. Seuss forest, right? And you're just tripping balls because you're on acid. All the colors are blending together and you're getting this green blend, and then you're sitting there drinking absinthe, looking at this insane, driving your convertible 85 miles right through the heart of the forest, watching the trees blur by you, Dr. Seuss trees, mind you, and you're just losing it, right? That's the image of this. It's so unique with that, all of these different green notes, Artemisia and absinthe. And, you know, I actually wore this recently, one of the greatest Dior's of all time, Dior Jules, by Jean Martel. I did a Jean Martel video as well, and it reminded me a little bit, the opening, because there's this big green wormwood note in here. It reminded me a little bit of Memoir Man, but that's why Christopher Chong, to me, all-star. I mean, the greatest, you know, the greatest creative director of all time because of what he did at Amouage. And he did it for the art's sake, not sales. I mean, you know, people like us who are watching fragrance videos may like this, but the average person is probably like, what in the world is this? But yes, so Memoir Man's one. The other one is Beach Hut Man. And Beach Hut Man has this ivy green. There's a little bit of mint and freshness in the top as well, but it's not a beach hut on the beach. It's a beach hut in the forest, you know, where the trees have overgrown it. There's orange blossom, galbanum, ivy, oak moss, and then it sort of dries down to a little bit of this licorice-like resinous myrrh, okay? So imagine the warmth of myrrh that it sort of adds to it. So there's this warm, woody sort of dry down. Elise Benat's creation, and definitely I think her best work. Okay, and then we have a couple more green fragrances. So the first one is going to be Filet Nagil by Serge Lutens, one of my favorite smoky green pine fragrances. If you can imagine just, you know, walking up to a tree and the tree leaking sap, and you put your hand in that sap, right? And you sort of are smelling the forest, you're smelling the blue sky, there's a fire in the background, but way in the background. That's Filet Nagil. And it's brilliantly executed by Christopher Sheldrake. And I always thought that this was the sort of gold standard of this style, and I still do, but there is a challenger now. So the fifth green fragrance we're going to highlight is Arceau. I have been loving Arceau lately. I've been in love with this brand, actually, Parfums Roma. My God, man. Arceau is just... Parfums Roma does everything intense and loud, and these fragrances are very oily, and they almost feel like an X-ray on your skin. They last forever, but they project. Some X-rays sit close to the skin. These just project. So, just unbelievable projection. So, here's what I think we're going to do, because I am sort of running out of time. I'm going to do 5 categories instead of 6. We're going to save the vetiver category for the next round of this video. I will do a round 2. So I was going to do a bonus category, but I don't think I'm going to have time. So let's just do 5. 5 for 5,000. So we did green fragrances, we did CHYPREs, and we did Fougere. So let's do ouds next, okay? So oud, I broke it up basically into designer oud, Western oud, if you will. Now, I'm not saying there's not real oud in here. There may be a drop of real oud in here, but it doesn't smell like there's real oud in many of these, to my nose. Allegedly, my opinion, okay? Do not sue me, because there are some brands in here that, you know, they get down with that. So don't send me a cease and desist letter. It's just my opinion. But the first one is Versace Pour Homme Oud Noir. So Versace Pour Homme Oud Noir, for me, for a $40 fragrance, right? If you want sort of a starter oud, don't go buy Tom Ford's Oud Wood. I mean, you could, but I would just tell you to go buy this. It's peppery, cardamom, frankincense, oud in the dry down, and there's a note of leather wood as well, which I've talked about that note before, but I think it's a ingredient from Givaudan or something like that. And there's a little bit of saffron in here, but it's woody and spicy. This fragrance is a decade old now, which is crazy to think, but I'm a fan. I mean, I like this style of fragrance. I know some people have grown to hate it. I've always liked that style, and I'm pretty sure I always will, even though it's not expensive or anything like that. So that's a designer. Now we're going to go to a private line, the Dior Privés, okay? But I'm still including this in the Western style of oud because it doesn't smell like the artisanal brands, right? So this is leather oud. And I have been loving this fragrance ever since I originally smelled it. I think my first bottle was a 2017 bottle or 2018. I can't remember. Let's see. What are you? You are a 2018, okay? So it's the one with the C and the D together. And everyone kept telling me, you have to get the one that has the C and the D apart. So I did. I found a 2015 bottle, C and D apart. They smell identical. Absolutely identical to me. So then I'm reading in the forums, and there's people saying, leather oud is one of those fragrances that was actually reformulated back in 2013. So you have to get a 2013. And I'm like, I'm not doing it. I love this fragrance as it is in the 2015 and the 2018 form. I love it. It's leather, civet, oud, and beeswax, and labdanum, and thick resins, and woods, and of course, oud. But I love this. It's probably my favorite Privé. One of my favorite Privés. So yes, I mean, like I said, there's no reason for me to do a comparison video because they smell the damn same to me. So, but leather oud makes the Western oud list, if you will. And then, of course, we have Maison Francis Kurkdjian's oud. Not just the eau de parfum, not the extrait version. There is an extrait which smells different. This is just the original eau de parfum. And this is one of the most beastie fragrance. I mean, you talk about beast mode. I will tell you that oud, just the OG oud by MFK, some of this stuff got on a piece of paper that was on my desk, okay? Like I sprayed it on my hand up here, and some of it must have trickled down. I smelled this fragrance, I shit you not, for 3 months in my room. If that little pad was anywhere near me, 3 months I could smell it. It's unbelievable. Claims it's Laotian oud with saffron, Philippine elemi, Atlas cedar, and Singapore patchouli. Again, it doesn't. There may be a drop of real oud in here. I don't know, but my guess is that this is mostly a Laotian oud accord. Okay, but I still like it. That's the thing. I still like this style of fragrance. And then shout out to Rich Mitch. I know he wears this every September 1st when he makes his transition to his fall and winter fragrances. This is tobacco oud. And if you can find the older bottles with the gold lettering, try to do that. The new ones I've heard are a little watered down. Actually, I heard that tobacco oud is being discontinued in the 100 ml. So I'm glad I got 100 ml, that they're only going to do 50 mils from now on. But tobacco oud is Olivier Guillotine's, maybe one of his best creations. It's tobacco oud, patchouli, sandalwood with a hit of this whiskey. And there is a little bit of Amber Absolute in here. And I didn't realize it until I got myself a bottle of Amber Absolute, but it's absolutely true. Amber Absolute. And so, yes, tobacco oud, one of my favorite designer Western ouds I'm loving lately. And one I'm very much looking forward to this winter when it cools off, Fahrenheit Absolute. So our good friend Francois Demachy created this, and you can see Bois de Oud in the back, oud wood on the back, with Essence de Myrrh. He really does use myrrh really well. What is it? Robes called this the devil's juice, right? And it's a dark designer. I really like this. Really, really like Fahrenheit Absolute. Glad to have a 100 ml bottle. It's going to get a lot of wear this year, but yes, this is good designer style oud, if you will. Okay, so that was 5 designer ouds. Let's do 5 niche ouds. So these are going to be from mostly from the big boy houses. Arise Ladore, Ensar, stuff like that. So the first one is this. This is the History of Chinese Oud, which the History of Chinese Oud 2 was in the sample from the New Classics collection. This, oh my God, man. There is something about this fragrance that Chinese Oud in general, and including, I'm going to include this one in this as well. So the History of Chinese Oud, and this is just called Chinese Oud. Okay, so this came out in 2020. This came out in 2023. This whole collection, actually, if you're an oud lover, this whole collection is gold. And I've got a couple of videos. I have one on the Indian oud, which is probably one of the best takes on Indian oud I've ever smelled. And this Chinese oud, I just love the animalic, dirty, earthy, mushroomy, sort of smoky, you know, rooty thing going on. It's a very strange fragrance. But here, it's actually a composition. They built all this other stuff around it. And so they used things like, for example, they used Chinese, sorry, I said 2020 it came out. It actually came out in 2021. They used things like Chinese Rose Otto and Chinese Gardenia CO2 and Chinese Jasmine Absolute to give it that real, you know, to keep it in the proper place historically, with Mysore Sandalwood in the base. And that's the thing about this, it takes it a little while to heat up. So when you spray, you're going to get the orange and you're going to get the aldehydes. And it smells like a vintage. To me, the more I've worn this, the more this smells like a like if Guerlain could create a fragrance using oud. There's a couple times I've said that with Russian Adam's work. This is one of them. It's really, really grown on me. And I swear it's become smoother. So Chinese oud and the history of Chinese oud. And then Oud Zen, which I have a review on. And I'm so glad to have just the couple drops I have. But Oud Zen, you know, if you know that sort of lava-like style that he's been known for, my God, man. So I really want a bottle of this stuff. So they took that sort of oud, there's New Guinea oud and Sri Lankan oud in here, but they took that style along with Indian oud, and they basically blended that lava-like style with castoreum, okay? So that animalic castoreum and civet and resin, so the Apopanax, the Tolu balsam, gives it that, you know, lava-like feel. But whereas Russian oud, I think, is much more, you know, Russian oud focuses more on the chocolatey aspects, and you know, the oud is there, but it's like a wearable oud. This is also very wearable to me, but this is much more my style. Oud Zen has very quickly climbed up the ranks the more I've gotten to know this, and you can see I've worn the shit out of it. My God, Matt, just masterpiece level. Would love a bottle of that one day. And then next on the list, we have an Ensar fragrance. And this is Ensar's E01. And thank God I was able to back this up, because this is discontinued. I think Ensar's E01 is sort of his masterpiece, if you will, in my opinion, as a leather lover. It's such a wearable leather. It has that Ensar sparkle, is what I've come to call it. Just like the little outer leather bit is crafted by hand by the guy who crafts and this is full grain leather. You can see sort of the imperfections and stuff like that. Just like it's crafted by hand by the guy that creates the Pope's Bible, the outer bits of the Pope's Bible. Ensar Oud's E01 feels like a fragrance that, you know, each little bit was crafted by hand. The castoreum that gives the leather bit feels so natural. The civet, the oud, the cypress, the lavender, everything. The frankincense, and of course that sparkly ambergris and tobacco. It's a perfect, I could wear this all year round. I could wear this in summer, wear it in winter. You know, it's the Ensar fragrance that I finally, there were a couple where I tried and I'm like, I don't know, you know, the price is very high, but it grows on you, and that one really did grow on me. So it's got Himalayan rose, bourbon rose, Gallic rose, just amazing ingredients. Everything feels like properly distilled by hand and all that good stuff. Okay, so final real oud fragrance, and this may shock some people. And actually, I have one complaint about this fragrance, and that's that the cap, when you take it off, it leaks a little bit on this bottle. So these bottles, you know, I love the style and everything, but I don't really care for the sprayer and all that stuff and the cap. And but the fragrance, I am in love with this composition. I am shocked by how much I love this. Actually, so my good friend Jeff, very kindly, he said, hey man, I'm going to send you some samples or something. And I was like, okay. I was expecting to have like little 2 ml decants. He sent me like 5 bottles or something, and this was one of them. And I took this on a trip with me to Austin, and I wore it the first day. And I never do this, by the way. I always wear a different fragrance every day, right? Wore this on a trip. First day I wore it, I was like, I have to wear that again. Like, I love it so much, I have to wear it again. Wore it the second day. The third day, I'm sitting there looking at my other fragrances, and I'm like, I'm wearing this again. Like, I love, and I wore this to client meetings. Like, I didn't care. I just loved what Tower did with his L'Oud. Some people say that it's rubbery, and it is, or it can come across as, I would say, a little bit rubbery. They now have a sticker that goes on the front. It doesn't have his signature on it anymore. But it's Laotian oud with castoreum and labdanum, cistus labdanum, with Java vetiver, Mysore sandalwood, tobacco, myrrh, cypriol. So cypriol makes a big difference here. And, of course, if you've heard me talk about Andy Tower's work, that signature ambergris that he does, that isn't real ambergris, but he's created this accord, almost like a Guerlain that really gives off this very specific type of ambergris smell. And you smell it in Le du Desert Marocain, you smell it in Lone Star Memories, you smell it in all of his fragrances, even Sundowner, the new one. I don't think I've smelled an Andy Tower fragrance that doesn't have that signature ambergris. But it's mixed here with the oud. And it's just, for somebody who has fallen deeper and deeper into the oud rabbit hole, this shocked me how much I loved it. Like, I was expecting it to be more, this smells very, this I'm putting in there with the Ensars and the Aries L'Adore. It's crazy, I know. But for me, for the smell and everything, it belongs in the quote-unquote artisanal oud side. Okay, so our last category is going to be leather. My favorite category of all time, of course. So we have some leather fragrances here. And of course, on the designer side, 5 leather fragrances. So the first one is probably my favorite fragrance of all time, or close to it. It's Bel Ami. And this is a vintage shaker bottle, but you could get the first reformulation as well, I would say. My God, man. It's like being on my uncle's boat under the deck where there were wood paneling and stuff like that, but the boat was enclosed all winter, right? So, you know, it didn't have the air circulation coming through is what it smells like to me. And with a beautiful cedar note. Fuck. Man. And of course it has that old school masculine sage with woods and leather and all of this, just unbelievable leather fragrance. So Bel Ami, first one. Second one, speaking of unbelievable designer leather fragrances, second one is going to be Antaeus. So also my favorite fragrance, competing with Bel Ami. Again, these are unranked, but my God, man. One of the best leathery castoreum dry downs I've ever come across. There's a little bit of beeswax in there. All right, so there is a little bit of this beeswax accord, if you will, and also some myrrh, myrtle, thyme, basil, and of course that very posh Chanel dark rose just comes out at the perfect time. It always seems to come out at the perfect time, but with that myrrh, the resinous myrrh, and the castoreum note is like all-star level castoreum, leathery castoreum. I mean, one of the greatest leathers ever. Antaeus from 81. Easily could be my signature scent if you made me wear one fragrance forever. Next on the list is going to be a Guerlain, and it is Guerlain's Derby. Again, one of the greatest leathers of all time. Derby is is a fragrance that I think Jean-Paul Guerlain sort of created when he's always loved horses. That's the first thing. So there's a little bit of a love affair of horses there. And there is a little bit of this horse stable leather. But this is more like a Spanish leather to me. Like, the leather doesn't just come out and punch you in Derby. It's not like Bel Ami. In Derby, I think there's a little bit of an intro. You believe it or not, there's a peppermint note. There's a little bit of this peppermint mugwort, old school green. I actually have a comparison video between this version of Derby and the version Thierry Vasseur did in 2005. He did a fantastic recreation. If you want to hear my thoughts, go watch that video. But man, it is just, this is the executive level, C-suite, you know, top of the line for me. So yes, Derby. At number, well, it's unranked, but number 3. Number 4 is going to be this little bad boy. Robert Piguet's Bendy. So Bendy is one of the most butch green, dark green leathers. It opens up extremely dark and thick and smoky. And just think about women smoking when they shouldn't, right? Or like it was improper for a woman to smoke. But imagine a woman being like, fuck you, I'm smoking, right? It's that sort of vibe. One of my favorite leathers of all time, Robert Piguet's Bendy. Next on the list we have probably the greatest Chanel ever. God, it's hard to say, you know, because Antaeus is probably my favorite, but I think just as far as creation goes, I think this is probably, if I was subjective about it, or if I was being objective about it, it would be this. This is Cuir de Russie. Cuir de Russie smells like you are in a horse and carriage 150 years ago, a buggy, and you get sort of the funk from the horse and all of this stuff, but you're also dressed up in threads that you couldn't think of in this life right now, right? So the threads that you're in are minks, and you know you're in a ballroom with chandelier made of real crystal, and you know a spread of food that is just done by the finest chefs in the world, right? But you're 150 years ago. You don't have a phone. You don't have a computer. It's that vibe. There's a little bit of this, you know, animalic horse feel to Cuir de Russie, but I absolutely love it. And it has that posh Chanel sparkle to it. Okay, 5 niches, and then I got to go get my daughter. So the first one's going to be Santa Maria Novella's Peau d'Espagne. Thank you, Duchan, for sending me this. I absolutely love Peau d'Espagne. I'm still looking for the vintage, oh God, gold foil label. I do think there are some differences, but I think this is an amazing recreation that they've done. Santa Maria Novella's Peau d'Espagne. I have a video on the channel you can go check out of Spanish leather versus Russian leather versus designer leathers if you would like. So that's the first one on the list. Number 2 is going to be Roja's Fétiche pour Homme Parfum. Okay, so Fétiche is smoky leather with fig. So he added the fig. You know, he always likes adding a little bit of a twist to vintage fragrances, but it's basically his take on Bel Ami. Okay, so that's Fétiche pour Homme. It's Roja's take on Bel Ami. So it has the violet, the fig, the El Ami, sort of the modernized notes, but in a vintage style. I'll always prefer Bel Ami, of course, but Fétiche is beautiful, and it has a little bit of the smoky frankincense that comes up with the ambergris and labdanum and beautiful stuff. Okay, next on the list, we have Pure Distance M, which was also a Roja creation. And Pure Distance M was, apparently Roja was the perfumer of Pure Distance M, right? And so this is supposed to smell like the inside of an Aston Martin, leather Aston Martin. And I love them both. I think this maybe goes a little bit more smoky frankincense, you know, labdanum. And this maybe goes a little bit more just leather. You know, really focuses more on the leather aspect of it. It doesn't have the fig and all that stuff like Fétiche. So I love them both, but I think I prefer Pure Distance M. Discontinued, by the way. But Pure Distance M. And then we have this little bad boy here, Je suis un homme, which, by the way, this is niche option number 4. Je suis un homme is a brilliant creation by Antoine Lee that also has overtures of the great Bel Ami. This is discontinued, means I am man. One of my favorite niche leathers nobody ever talks about, hardly anyone talks about. Oh, it's just brilliant. Oily leather, right? Machine-like leather. And finally, we've got one of my favorite fragrances of all time, and this is Lone Star Memories. So Lone Star Memories, I'll do a full review on one day. One of the most artistic, see how the cap just sort of came out there, but it's got this smoky campfire, cowboy by the campfire, taking his boots off, making coffee, burning it, washing himself with geranium soap. There's just this amazing smoky, leathery bit to this fragrance. So Lone Star Memories is my 5th and final niche. So that's 5 categories: Fougeres, CHYPREs, green fragrances, ouds, and leathers. So obviously we could do another one of 5 more. I tried to keep it in an hour, mostly because I have to go get my daughter. I wish I could have stayed and chatted longer with you guys, but I really appreciate everyone that got us to 5,000 subscribers. So 5 designers, 5 niche from each one of the categories. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your favorites are. I love doing these videos for you guys. Here's to 5,000 more. Thank you for the support, everybody. Do leave a comment. I will get back to you. Cheers, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.